good afternoon to one and all present here. I, Pototri Pramani, the PMO executive at Zeneesha Limited, warmly welcomes all of you to our very first webinar on Workday Talent Optimization and Career Hub. I would like to take this moment to introduce you to Zeneesha Limited. Zeneesha was established in the year 2017 and it is an ISO certified Workday consultancy organization. We are headquartered in United Kingdoms with our significant presence across Europe and in India. We are vision to become one of the most reliable and trustworthy organization that builds relationship with their clients to solve their complex problems. Now I would welcome our executive director to take over and enlighten everyone with our services and our work modules. Over to you, Ranjan.
The directors of Zeneesha Limited. As Pudotri mentioned, we started our journey way back in 2017. However, we actually started our workday practice from late 2020, early 2021, and since then we haven't looked back. Our services in Workday includes consulting services, the AMS support, data management, as well as the corporate training. I believe all of you have some knowledge of Workday, but if you do not know Workday, I'll just give you a brief background. Workday is a HRMS, basically a HRMS solution. And with Workday, Workday is also coming up with finance suite and as well as the supply chain management. So currently, Workday is both in HRMS space as well as finance, and it is the leading HRMS solution, cloud solution in the world today. So, yeah, as I mentioned, our bouquet of services include both consulting, support, data management, and corporate training. Uh, uh, we have uh, we have a number of clients today whom we are serving, and we have our offices in UK and as well as India, and we serve our client all across the Europe. So with that, I'll just pass on to Ali, who is our subject matter expert, and he'll walk you through today to the webinar. So over to you, Ali.
Thank you, Ranjan, and thank you, Patatri, for setting that context. Let's get started. I would bring up the screen real quick, and we can go from there. All right, so welcome all. Welcome to this session on Workday Talent Optimization and Career Hub. I'm Ali Sayed. I'm a Workday SME working with Zeneesha for almost 4 years now. Overall, I have 13 plus years of consulting experience, and all HR consulting. So worked with SAP, I worked with Workday. Within Workday, I specialize in almost all the HR modules. So compensation, recruiting, talent, optimization, learning, reporting and analytics. All excited to host this very first session on talent optimization. So the focus of this session would be the the overview of the talent optimization as a product. Will then dive deeper into Career Hub, all the different components that constitute this framework of Career Hub. We'll talk about Skills Cloud, talent marketplace, again, in the context of Career Hub. So as I mentioned, the focus of the session is Career Hub and its framework. We'll not look into the configuration today, but we have planned this as a multi-part seminar, a multi-part webinar, and will be in subsequent sessions diving deeper into each of these components, but also into talent optimization as a whole. So we'll talk about configuration and other aspects as well. So yeah, keep a lookout for those invitations and do enroll in those sessions as well. All right. Okay, so let's get started. So what is talent optimization? Talent optimization is a Workday product, or if I should say, it's a suite of Workday solutions available. or Workday functional areas available. And these functional areas, they collectively allow organizations to manage their workforce, handle their talent and optimization needs. Um, the purpose of this solution or this suite of solutions is to help organizations provide their employees a curated, a personalized talent experience, and to help them achieve and pursue their talent strategies. The key focus of this whole solution: understand, engage, and adapt. We'll talk about each of these concepts in much greater detail throughout this session, right? So understand the key skills and capabilities of your workforce. Engage. Now, a given organization can have different talent groups, right? Right from baby boomers, Gen Z, Gen X. And now each of these talent groups have their unique talent needs, right? The solution is customizable so that it provides you with tools and capabilities to deliver personalized talent experiences for each of these talent groups based on their talent requirements. And finally, adapt. So it acts as a tool which basically helps organizations manage their talent strategies for the changing business needs, right? For the changing talent needs and the changing talent landscape. um, yeah, some of these talent strategies could be, how do you acquire talent for the new skills, right? Whether you borrow talent within your organization, whether you hire new talent, these could be various strategies then that organization can implement based on the insight that the whole talent optimization suite and specifically Career Hub provides. All right, so we'll look at the key pillars of talent optimization. As I mentioned, we'll not be doing a deep dive into all of these aspects. The focus of this session is Career Hub and Talent Marketplace. The key pillars of talent optimization, or I Workday mentions them as SKUs or functional areas. We have performance enablement, we have career development, talent pipeline, and then of course talent marketplace and career hub. Now, some of these you may already be aware of. So, for example, within performance enablement scope, we have performance reviews, right? These could be your annual performance reviews, your annual performance cycles, performance improvement plans. This could be your disciplinary actions, your individual development plans. How do you manage goals or objectives for your organization, right? Which can be worked towards and then delivered throughout the year, right? So how do you manage your organizational goals, but how do you also handle your employees' individual goals, right? It talks about competency and how do you manage competencies within your organization. And then there are certain other aspects, for example, feedbacks and check-in, which would also be utilized within Career Hub. Career and development, it talks about development items. So apart from those goals, which are assigned to you throughout the year, you can also identify development areas or focus areas for yourself as an individual. And you can assign them as development items. Your managers or your people leaders can assign them as development items or create a development plan for you. Then we have talent review. We'll look at that in a bit more detail. You can identify your career interests, your job interests. We have opportunity graph, which is basically an overview of all the internal mobility transitions that have happened within an organization. So it basically checks all of your historical data to see how many people or how people move from one role to another, and then presents it to an employee. So I, as an employee, can see my opportunity graph, and that would give me a visualization of how many people from my role have moved to different roles within the organization, right? And then I can plan my own career growth or my own career mobility as per that. Succession planning, we can handle how key positions or critical positions are managed within the organization in terms of a succession plan. Uh, it talks about talent reviews, calibrations, how you can manage your employees' potential, what would be the impact of these employees leaving, right? So loss impact, retention ratio, that is all under the scope of talent pipeline. And then within talent marketplace, we have something called gigs. We'll look at opportunity match analysis, and then we'll talk about how learning suggestions are pop up in talent marketplace. And then finally, we'll look at career hub. So this is your talent optimization as a product, but really the key or the foundation of this whole product is your core HCM data. So this is the information that your employees maintain for themselves in terms of their key talent attributes, in terms of their work and experience. So their achievements, their certifications, languages, training, it is this data which actually flows into the talent profile, which then is used by the machine learning or the AI engine to start proposing those skills and all the other aspects within your career hub window. All right, so having said that foundation, let's look at what Career Hub is. We'll throughout this webinar, and we'll keep hearing about skills because it's basically skills which drive this whole machine learning framework. But before coming to that, so what is Career Hub? Career Hub is a machine learning driven career coach that basically enables your employees to discover career development opportunities within the organization. And these opportunities are basically based on the employees' skills, right? The skills that they would want to pursue, basically their skill interests, right? And based on these career development opportunities, the employees can then plan their own career development, right? So the key to this whole functionality is employees take ownership of their own career development within the organization. Okay, as I mentioned, the feature uses machine learning to provide those personalized development suggestions to the employees, and then employees can take action on these suggestions. Now, these actions could be finding a mentor who has the skills that I would want to pursue or grow into, right? This could be connecting with co-workers who have the same skills as I do, right? This could also be exploring learning opportunities so that I can grow in the skills, right, based on my career aspirations. And this could also be pursuing the internal mobility options within the organizations, and not just internal mobility, but also gigs. Now, the Career Hub itself has three key components. We'll talk about that in much greater detail later. So we have suggestions for you. This is where all these suggestions would pop up based on your talent data, based on your skill data. And this is where you will have all the machine learning algorithm coming into play, right? Then based on the suggestions, you can plan your career development. So that is the second section. And finally, you can explore additional opportunities within the organization. So these are the three key components of Career Hub. We'll talk about that in greater detail in subsequent slides. But before we go there, let's talk about the deployment of this framework. Now, Career Hub, as I mentioned, brings together a lot of different components together. So the key to deploying Career Hub is first making sure you have your right HCM data, but also there are other key prerequisites. So in terms of the basic talent and HCM core functionalities, you should have your mentorship, connections, anytime feedbacks, development items. Now, not all of these are required, but at least three of these functionalities should be implemented for the career framework to work. And then if you want your learning suggestions to be populated, so if I want to get some skill and there is a learning or a training available which can impart that skill for me, and if you want these learning suggestions to be populated, then Workday learning has to be implemented, right? And if you want to use your skills for driving your talent acquisition, then Workday recruiting should be implemented. So these are some of the foundation that has to be deployed before moving on to some of the advanced functionalities. Then you have to opt into innovation services. We'll talk about that. So if you want machine learning to work on your data, then Workday requires that you opt in to a few innovation services. Then enable skills cloud. As I mentioned, skills is the key which binds all of this data together. We'll talk about skills cloud in subsequent slide. Deploy talent marketplace, and finally you have your career hub as a functionality ready. We'll explore these features in greater detail. So first, as I mentioned, your foundation or your key for not just Career Hub, but the entire talent optimization is your career profile or your core HCM data. So this is where you collect your employee information, right? So it is this data. So when your employees go in and enter their key talent, their experience and skills attributes, so for example, their job history, which could include all the roles they have worked on, their roles, their responsibilities, the certifications that they have, their educational background, their interests, their skills. The machine learning algorithm then uses this data to infer the skills that you have. So based on your career profile, machine learning would infer the skills that you have. And that's why the key to this whole talent optimization is the quality of data that you maintain for your employees, or for that matter, employees maintain for themselves. So the key attributes which drive the whole career hub foundation are your certifications, education, job history, career and job interests, and your skills. There are a few other optional functionalities that can be added. So awards and activities, work experience, talent statement. So talent statements are your brief professional summary. This is similar to how we add our talent statement on our LinkedIn profile, right? A summary of our career, the languages proficiency, the trainings that you have gone through, professional affiliations. Now, all of these are part of your worker profile. So if you've seen Workday screen, right, and I've added some screenshots here, under career, you can make all of this data available, and employees can then either fill in this data through self-service. So I, as an employee, can go to my profile and add my education and certification and job history and all the other relevant details. But then we can also send or prepare a structured task, basically talent reviews, wherein we can ask our employees to fill in this information. So on a recurring basis, maybe every 6 months or every 1 year, we can send these talent review templates to our employees, which would appear in their inbox, right? And then they can go in and fill this information, right? So the key to this whole career hub foundation, career hub functionality, and I cannot stress this enough, is the data that you maintain for your employees. All right, so once you have your career data maintained, or your core worker HCM data maintained, the next step, as I mentioned, is the innovation services. Now there are two key innovation services that have to be opted in. The first one is Workday Graph, and then the next one is HCM machine learning. Now, when you opt into these innovation services, Workday would ask you to contribute certain data. So Workday uses this data, right? Or for that matter, Workday's machine learning algorithm would use this data to infer your skills, right? So when we opt into these innovation services, there could be some legal discussions involved within the organization to make sure that we are only exposing the relevant data, or before we expose any data, we know what data we are exposing, right? So the key for enabling some of these services is opting into these opt-in services and then contributing the data for Workday's AI and ML engine to work. All right. Okay. Now, when you log in to your Career Hub, system would ask you to identify 4 key pieces of information. First, based on your career data or your the career profile we spoke about, Workday would come up with a host of skills suggestions for you, right? It would look at your roles, responsibilities, and say it would identify certain skills which could be relevant for you. So the first step is you define your current skills, and this could be from the suggestions that Workday's machine learning algorithm brings up, or these could be any additional skills which were not part of the suggestion. So you define your current skills. Next, you identify the skills that you would be interested in developing or pursuing. Then you identify your career focus and your career interests, so the jobs that you would be interested in pursuing. So today I am a consultant and I am interested in becoming an architect, right? And for those jobs, Workday would again have identified certain skills, and based on that, Workday starts popping up all these suggestions for you. So this is the basic profile setup within Career Hub. And as I mentioned, skills is the key to this whole Career Hub and the machine learning framework, right? Today, in the fast evolving landscape, the roles and jobs they are changing, right? A key prerequisite for defining, for any organization for that matter, to define and identify their talent strategy and be future ready is to identify the skills that they will need, right? So skills in effect is the new talent currency. So the first thing that any organization would need, right, is to identify the skills that their workforce currently have. So the skills that is available to the organization in terms of its current workforce. Once we know the skills that we have, the next step would be to identify the skills that we would need in the future, right? And once we have that information, right, we can then design our whole talent upskilling and reskilling program, right? It's based on the skill gap between what we have and what we need or what we may need. We can then decide our talent strategies, right? We can then define whether, for example, we would want to bring in skills from a different part of the organization in order to deliver a certain work, or if certain skill doesn't exist at all, and that's where I'll have to acquire talent through my talent acquisition channels, right? But then it also gives your employees the option to own their own career development. So if I currently hold 10 skills and the jobs that I'm placed on require 15 skills, I then know that I'm lacking those 5 skills and I can work on developing those skills. Or if I'm pursuing a certain job and that job requires a whole set of skills, I can then pursue learning opportunities and training opportunities, development opportunities in order to acquire those skills, right? So skills, as I mentioned, is in effect the new currency for designing and developing the whole talent strategy. Okay, so because of this, Workday came up with Skills Cloud. Now, what is Skills Cloud? Let's take an example, right? We have JavaScript, we have J. Now, I as an employee may go into the system and enter JS as a skill that I possess, right? Now, JS, JavaScript are basically, they mean the same thing, right? They are synonyms. At the same time, Python is related to JavaScript, right? So we have this diverse set of skills which are available within the organization. Now, the key question is, how do we relate those skills, group those skills in a logical order? Now, this is where Skills Cloud comes into picture. Now, Workday defines Skills Cloud as the most open, intelligent skills foundation, right? That's Workday's definition of Skills Cloud. And it helps organizations to drive skill-based decisions. It helps. Skills Cloud is basically an AI and machine learning driven algorithm. Okay, so what are the key aspects of Skills Cloud? First, Workday through Skills Cloud have identified the key skills, right? Which are then made available to you, right? So it goes through all the millions of skills, the skills variant, and then defines the skill ontology, which is available to the employees, right? Once employees assign those skills to themselves, so if I go in and identify Workday as a skill for myself, the uh, next thing is how does Workday infer those skills that I have not entered for myself? And this is based on that AI and ML algorithm. So it would look at your core talent skill data and identify even those skills that you have not entered explicitly for yourself. Now, once the skills have been associated with the worker, the next step is to verify those skills, right? So if I have a skill of communication or Workday, what is my proficiency in that skill? So if, am I a beginner in that skill or am I an expert? So the next step is how do we verify those skills, right? And this is where you can Workday provides the options for employees to do self-assessment. So I can assess myself on those skills, but then we also have the option to take feedback, right? So employees can give you feedback and assess you on the proficiency of those skills, but also endorse you on those skills. And finally, the key to this entire Skills Cloud framework is then how do we use these skills, right? And as I mentioned, skills are basically connecting all of these aspects. So skills connect your talent with your learning, right? So if I need certain skill, a, a given course imparts you that skill, then Workday would propose you that learning or that course so that you can take that course and grow towards that skill, right? It also links recruiting with HCM. So if I need a certain skill on a job, right, that would automatically flow in to the job requisition, and then I can hire people for that particular skill. So I can then cross check and see what is the skill that I need for a particular job and what is the skill that a given candidate possess, right? And then I can make that informed hiring decision. So how do we then use skills throughout the Workday system, in talent, in recruitment, in learning, and basically all aspects of Workday? So that is Skills Cloud in the nutshell. Now, apart from the Skills Cloud skills, and this is as I mentioned, Workday gives you this database of skills through its Skills Clouds engine. But apart from that, an organization may have its own unique skills, right? You can also define your skills as maintained skills. So these are skills that are unique for your organization, right, which are not part of your Skills Cloud. You can still go ahead and define those skills, and then you can opt into machine learning. So in the sense, Workday would still look at these skills and use that in its machine learning algorithm to do all the work that it does. And then finally, we can also have crowdsourced skills. This is where an employee can go in and add a new skill if he cannot find that as a maintained skill or a Skills Cloud skill. So these are the different skill types available. Now, why are we talking about that? Because we have settings or configuration options that can be done. So the key of all this is or the first part of enabling Skills Cloud is to do the setup, right? So the first thing is enable your Skills Cloud. Keep in mind, once you enable your Skill Cloud, it cannot be disabled. Now, in your skills and experience setup, you can define whether you would want, when an employee searches for a skill, whether the Skills Cloud skill has the precedence or is it your maintained skill. So you can optimize what skill results are displayed to your employees as the first set as the first step in this whole setting. Once you've done that, as I mentioned, you can define your own maintained skills. But if Workday also comes up with those skills as part of Skills Cloud, then you can also say convert those skills into Skills Cloud skills. So the next step is the configuration option as to how do you handle duplicate skills or synonymous skills for that matter. If, for example, you have a maintained skill called uh, good learner, and there is a skills cloud skill called learning expert. Now, in essence, both of these are synonymous, they mean the same thing. Then how do you want Workday to manage these synonymous skills or duplicate skills? And finally, the suggestions that I spoke about. Now, suggestions can happen at multiple places. So based on the machine learning, Workday can suggest skills to the workers, but then Workday can also just suggest skills to both internal and external candidates. So this is where your talent acquisition that I mentioned comes into picture. So this is where you can see the skills that your job requires versus the skills that the candidate possess. They could be internal candidates or your external candidates. So Workday can suggest skills, not just for workers, but also for candidates, and not just for candidates, but also for your jobs and your job requisitions. So when you enable your skills cloud, you'll have to take informed decisions as to which of these settings you would want to enable. There are, of course, as I mentioned, subsequent settings involved, but we'll not look or deep dive into those configurational aspects today. We would have subsequent sessions talking about that. Okay, so that is the basics of your skills and experience setup, right? Your whole skills foundation setup. Once you have enabled Skills Cloud, the next step is to enable your talent marketplace. Now, this is where the skills engine is leveraged for your whole algorithm to work. Now, skills, your talent marketplace basically compares skills from multiple sources to then start proposing matches. We'll look at gigs in a bit. This is also referred to as flex teams. So these are your short-term work assignments that can be created in Workday. So your administrators can create gigs, right? And associate skills on those gigs, right? Saying that if you want to work on this gig, then you would need these set of skills. Similarly, your learning creators, when they create courses, they can identify the skills that those courses would impart, right? Your recruiters, as I mentioned, can add skills that are required for those jobs that they post. Now, when this data is available, that's where the machine learning matching services comes into picture. So this is where the machine learning will allow employees to basically browse and join gigs. It would allow employees to browse and apply for jobs. So the core to this whole matching engine, the matching services, is your skills. All right. Um, I'll just pause for a second for you to look at this 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 chart. So within talent marketplace, we have the opportunity graph. We'll look at that. So opportunity graph is where Workday would propose the opportunities that the employee can apply for based on the skills, right? So if I want to grow, if I have certain skills and there are opportunities available related to those skills, Workday would propose those opportunities for me. I can then go ahead and apply for those opportunities, right? Similarly, Workday would recommend courses and lessons based on the skills that I would want to learn, right? But also based on the skills that I currently lack in my current role. So this is where this whole talent marketplace and this matching engine comes into picture. Okay, what are gigs? What are flex teams? Again, this is a relatively new functionality in Workday. Gigs are basically your temporary work assignments, right? Again, Workday uses machine. So when you create gigs, you can associate skills with those gigs. And then Workday uses machine learning algorithm to determine which worker would be best suited to deliver a given gig, and then those gigs are pop up as suggestions within the workers career hub. What does gigs allow you to do? And now Workday has rebranded it as flex teams, right? So what does it allow you to do? It makes an organization's work easy to find those hard to find skills and capabilities within the organization, right? Across geographical boundaries. So if I don't have certain skill within my hierarchy, within my structure, within my business unit, within my company, I can then probably find those skills in a completely different hierarchy, in a completely different business unit, in a completely different geography within my company, right? So gigs basically allow you to find workers across the hierarchical structure based on the skills that those workers those possess, right? And then it allows you to cross train your employees, right? Your teams can your employees can gain those cross functional skills, right? Employees from different organizations can work together in order to achieve a, a given output. Okay, we have also seen, based on my experience, certain organizations using gigs as an alternative to learning. So we can use gigs as learning on the job. So as an example, instead of my employee having to take 3 days to go through a training to learn a certain course wherein he is not productive, instead of that, that employee can work on a gig which imparts him the same level of skills or same training, right? So that way our employees would be more engaged and they are productive. So certain organizations also use these gigs and flex teams to accelerate their workforce readiness, but also as a goal towards internal mobility. All right. Let's move ahead. So as I mentioned, your career hub consists of three key components. The first one are your suggestions. The second one is your plan. And the third one is explore. So what are suggestions? This is where the AI and machine learning algorithm would come in and start proposing you opportunities which will help you grow in your career. So the first thing that it proposes is the networking opportunities. So it would propose you mentors and connections. So who are mentors? These are the people who possess those skills that you are interested in developing. So when you set up your career profile, you identify the skills that you have and the skills that you are interested in developing, right? And Workday uses these skills and sees if there are certain employees who have those skills, then it proposes those employees as your mentor, right? Now you can go ahead and connect with those mentors, right? Form those mentorship relationship in order to acquire and grow those skills. Next, we have connections. Now, these are the workers who share the same skill set as you, right? That way you can form meaningful connections and you can grow your network within the organization among your peers who have the same skill sets. So that is the first set of suggestions that Career Hub would come up with based on skills. Next, it would give you suggestions related to experiences. Now, this includes gigs. The first one is gigs that your company needs help with. Now, these are those gigs or pieces of work that need the skills that you currently have, right? So if I have certain skills and there is a gig which requires that skill, then Workday would pop up those gigs in this section so that I can help deliver those pieces of work. The next is gigs that would help you develop. So again, these are those gigs that have the skills or that can impart those skills that I would want to develop or that I've shown interested in developing as part of my skills interest. And then learning. So this is learn something new. And this is where Workday would come up with learning content. Of course, the prerequisite for this is you have Workday learning enabled. So this is where Workday would come up with learning content based on the skills that the employee has expressed interest in developing. So again, when you create learning courses, you can link skills to those learning courses, saying that this learning course imparts a given skill. And based on those skills that are associated with the learning course versus the skills that you are interested in developing, the MI would populate those learning courses for you. Okay, once you have these learning, once you have these career suggestions, you can then act on those career suggestions. So the next section is basically plan. Now, for example, if you save a mentor who has been suggested for you, that mentor gets added to the to-do section. Now, this would be a reminder for the employee to then go ahead and send him a mentorship request, right? Any connections that were suggested and you save those connections, they would appear in this to-do section. And the idea is you can then go ahead and send them connection request. Similarly, any gigs that you have saved, any development items that you have saved, they would all appear in the to-do section. And the idea is you then act on those suggestions and in order to achieve your goal. Next, once you start working on those, so once you have sent your mentorship request, right, that would display under in progress. If you have expressed interest in working in a gig and that is currently pending, that would appear, and that gig is currently pending for approval, or that request is currently pending for approval, it would appear under pending section. And finally, it will also give you all the historical data. So it would show you all the mentorships, for example, that you have completed. It would show you all the connections that you have connected with. So it also gives you the historical perspective of all the work that you have already done. So that is the next section of Career Hub. And finally, as I mentioned, you can explore Career Hub further. Now, this is where you can search for skills, and based on skills, you can search for other opportunities. Now, this again consists of 4 key sections. Skills that your company is hiring for, right? This is where Workday would show you all the internal job postings for those skills that are frequently mentioned, or the key skills or the most needed skills within your organization. So you can look at those job postings. If you see they are relevant, you can apply for pursuing your internal mobility options. Then you have skills that would help you grow in your current role, right? Skills that would help you achieve your job interests, and then your next move. Now, along with this, there are certain, as I mentioned, Career Hub basically drives on all the other functionalities that you have implemented. So for example, as I mentioned, along with this, you can integrate other tasks within your Career Hub framework. You can integrate opportunity graph, you can integrate employee applications, you can integrate their job catalog, their learning catalog, and so on and so forth. So once you have all that, Workday would help employees not just find, but also pursue their career development and internal mobility options. All right, I think with that, I would stop for any questions. Uh, Patatri, are there any questions
Yes,
in the chat?
yes, Ali. We have a question from Lynn.
Let me look at the chat. Mm,
So
Skills.
he want
Okay. Take the first one. This is from Lynn. Lynn, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not. So the question is, how does the user actually select the skills to add to their profile? From a user POV, which I believe is perspective, the suggested skills appear in gray with a X. Okay, so yes, when you log into Career Hub, and not just Career Hub, you can integrate these tabs within the experience page on the worker profile, right? You can add that card called skills. You can also integrate that within the career profile and also in the Career Hub. When you go in, you would have any skills that you have already added. So this acts like a drop down or a prompt, right? The way we get prompts on a report. Workday would also list out all the skill suggestions below that. You can simply click on those skill suggestions and then they get added to your profile. You can also search for a specific skill within that prompt or that drop down. And if that skill is available, you can add it. If your organization has enabled crowdsourced skills, then you can also type in and add those skills manually if certain skill is not part of your skills cloud or your maintain skills database, right? So it's as simple as just clicking on those skills and they would get added. uh, okay, how
there's a
does it
continued question.
avoid bias? Retired. It's job, how no same justification. Okay, Lynn, I'm not sure what you mean when you say how does it avoid bias. Again, Workday gives some definitions as to how the skills cloud and the machine learning algorithm works, and it is driven through skills, and skills is the currency through which all of this these these different functionalities are linked. I'll have to take that question back. If you could also add some more explanation as to what do you mean by bias and any specific area that you're looking at, I can take this back, do some more research, and then we can post those answers back to you either on LinkedIn or on a shared page. But yeah, I can check that. Okay, Workday announced Career Hub Worklet has been retired. So I I'll have to see that because Career Hub is a new functionality. In fact, Workday is continuously releasing new features within Career Hub. So I'm definitely sure it's not retired. I'm just now working on a project wherein we are implementing Career Hub. So yeah, again, I'll have to see that, but I don't think that's the case. Is Job Hub Workday do the same? So again, as I mentioned, within the Career Hub, you can add quick links, and Jobs Hub is one of those quick links. So in fact, you can add jobs, you can add my applications within the Career Hub. Employees can then directly navigate to their jobs from the Career Hub. Okay, may I know the fundamental modules, foundation data required? So as I mentioned, the foundation for any Workday implementation, for that matter, your HCM and your core HCM worker data. Without that, you cannot implement Career Hub or any of the other talent optimization features. So you would need your core worker data, your core worker talent attributes to be there for the whole talent optimization, and for that matter for any other modules to work, be it recruiting or any other module. um, um okay, perfect. If you have any other questions, Patatri, I'm not sure, is can they still post those questions after the session and we can come back? uh,
Yes, they can mail it to us. And
yeah.
can you just address Prashanti's question? She's waiting.
What skills cloud and target market places? Okay, I thought this was my question is how do gigs appear to users? Are they scheduled tasks? Okay, no, again, so gigs are neither task nor dashboards, right? So let's say I have a very small piece of work. Let's assume I'm building a very simple app, right? And again, this is a hypothetical example. I need someone who is, let's say, JavaScript expert. I need someone who knows, let's say, SQL for building that app, right? I can create a gig, I can add description, and then I can mention saying that for this gig I would need or I'm looking for people who have those skills. So again, I can search for skills, add those skills on the gig. Now once we do that, it would appear as a tile in the career hub. So the way, if you have looked at Workday's learning, and if you have gone through any of the trainings or any of the um, um, training sites, right, for example Udemy, all your learning courses appear as a tile. You can click on those tile and then it opens up more information, right? So your gigs would appear as a tile, right? You can click on those gigs. It will give you additional information about that gig, right? It will tell you what skills are needed for those gigs, and then you would have an option to apply. So if a gig is relevant, you can apply for that gig, right? And if there is a process involved in approval, once it is approved, it would you would get added to your gig. So no, it is not a task. It is simply a tile which appears within the career hub. It's not related to your inbox or your task functionality. Um, all right, perfect. Um, we have 5 more minutes. As I mentioned, we are planning or we have planned this as a multi-series webinar. We definitely intend to give you more details as to how to set up these features, but also give you Workday demo to show how this actually works in Workday, right? So we would be rolling out those invites and those schedules shortly, wherein we'll talk about the configurational aspects of some of these elements that we discussed. All right. If there are no questions, Patatri, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ali, for being there and enlightening us with your wonderful session. And thank you all for joining and encouraging us to complete our very first webinar session. There is also a very big announcement from our side. Zeneesha is launching their first YouTube channel, so please encourage us, support us, and the this webinar session will soon be uploaded in our YouTube channel, and the links will be shared via emails. And also, you can get updates in our LinkedIn page, so please do visit. And nevertheless, we are here to help everyone. We are here and open for collaborations and partnerships. So please go and visit our website at www.zeneesha.com. And if you are looking for any opportunities or services, please you can just come and drop an email to us at info@zeneesha.com, or if you are wanting to send your resumes to us, you can send it at careers@zeneesha.com. And once again, thank you everyone. Please keep an eye on your emails. And also, I have attached the feedback form link in the chat box. If you could kindly take a minute and fill up, it will be helpful for us. And also, we will mail out, give the mails. And once again, thank you for joining and encouraging us. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Ranjan. Thank you, everyone else.
Thanks for the three. Thank you, Ali, for your insight on today's talent optimization and career hub. I hope we all have learned something new today and we have some takeaways from this session. Thank you once again, and yeah, please do not forget to fill the feedback form. This will help us to plan the next webinar in much better way. and also we'll get an insight on what you are actually looking out for. So thanks everyone. Thanks once again. Thank you.